Good morning, everyone. My topic today is our conscious and unconscious minds can create an unfair world. Did you know that your brain is hit by 11 million bits of information every second? 11 million bits of information every second. Of this, your conscious mind has the capacity to be able to process not more than 40 bits of information, which means a staggering 99.9999996% of what it is that your brain is receiving is actually being processed by your unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is actually full of impressions that force you to make snap judgments, that create quick impressions in your mind. It's the mind's tendency to be able to filter information basis, your past experiences, your likes and dislikes, your social background, your cultural context, and so on, to create blind spots in your mind that filters information that may not deliver reality to us. And so this can adversely impact rational decision making, which can severely impact the way in which we go about making decisions about people and about situations. Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman has said that the human brain is like a machine for jumping to conclusions. Thinking quickly and intuitively can sometimes lead us astray. So the human mind, the human brain, is a machine for jumping to conclusions. Are you aware that within seconds of meeting people, the human mind has a tendency to make conclusions about people and their competence, about your friendliness, and hold your breath, also about your honesty. So it does this by picking visual cues to do with age, to do with gender, to do with color, to be able to do with your physical attractiveness, your body weight, and also disability. It also has the ability to be able to pick non-verbal clues from accent, from your religion, from your sexual orientations, from your education, from your title, and even the function of the specialization that you deal with. So biases are actually your brain taking shortcuts to your thinking. And this can very severely and adversely impact working relationships, teamwork, and also creativity. It influences within organizations who we hire, who we decide to promote, who we assign to more sexier assignments, and who we do and decide to do business with. So our subconscious mind actually helps us make sense of the world around us. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are biased, and so am I, and it matters. It matters because this impacts the way in which people feel about themselves. It impacts very severely the happiness quotient of people within organizations and through society. It can cause short-termism, which then becomes thorny problems for the future. So what I'm going to do over the next couple of minutes is take you through almost 12 to 15 kinds of different biases, and I want you to stay with me as I take you through them, and then we try and talk about what to do about these biases. I'm going to start by talking about the affinity bias, or the like me so that you like me bias. This is the most common bias that exists. It's our tendency to like people who are like us. It's our tendency to feel comfortable to do business with or to work with people who are like us, who possibly from the same community, or who perhaps look like us, went to the same kind of school, are from the same socio-economic background, and so on. The problem is that the converse is a challenge, which is we tend to not like people who are not like us, or perhaps not trust people enough who are not like us. Having spent so many years of my career in HR, it has not been uncommon for me to be in very intense interview processes with very senior people, and as we complete the interview process, you have a very senior person turn to you and gush and say, "Oh my God, I love that candidate. He reminded me of myself when I was 25 years old." And we have a problem letting this person know that we're perhaps not looking for a candidate who is like him when he was 25 years old. We're perhaps looking to find a candidate who's suitable for the kind of job that we're trying to hire a person for. So like me and so that you like me bias is a severe challenge, because this is often the basis on which we hire, we promote, we give people opportunities, and we also give people an opportunity to do business with us. The peer test. Now, for a lot of you who might be going out to look for jobs shortly, this is a real test within organizations which are trying to figure the cultural compatibility of candidates that they're trying to hire within their organizations. But in psychological terms, the peer test is a tendency to feel comfortable with people that you'd like to socialize with or catch a drink with. Now, imagine if that's the criteria to be able to choose people for important jobs and for important assignments, but the peer test is a real bias. Confirmation test. This is the mind's tendency to be able to pick data, to create a hypothesis at the start of an interaction, and then gather more information to confirm the previous theory or the previous hypothesis. So the conclusion's actually already being made at the start, and you actually gather more information to be able to confirm your bias. Availability heuristics. This is the error of recency. It's because of what's happened more recently that it actually colors your impression of the entire experience. You see this play out within organizations, especially as we review performances, that if you've done really well in the last quarter, the tendency is to presume that you did well during the year, which is part of the reason why a lot of people save their performances for the last minute. The converse holds true as well. If you've had a splendid year and you really screwed it up in the last quarter, you can have a challenge of being able to get perceived as someone who's a performer. You see availability heuristics play out in sports. They play out in the way in which we evaluate performances just about in any walk of life, where what happened most recently is what is used as a criteria to be able to evaluate the overall performance. The peak end rule. This is the tendency to evaluate an experience basis what happened at the most intense moment. So the most intense moment that may have happened somewhere between the experience and how that experience really ended will actually create a bias around the way in which you see the entire experience. So this is a cognitive bias. This is our mind's tendency to be able to view an experience not in perspective, not keeping the entire experience in perspective, but because of a peak at the end of how the experience really panned out. Negativity bias. This is a terrible bias if you're associated with somebody who's senior or you have a significant family member who has this bias. This is the tendency to remember only the negative events. So you're colored, your opinion, your impression is colored by everything that goes wrong rather than anything that goes right. Groupthink. I'm sure each one of you in this room here who worked in group assignments or who worked in teams, whether in school, in college, or at work, have experienced this at some point in time or the other. Especially in very feudal collective societies like ours, this is a very common phenomena, which is where there is a tendency for the group to be able to arrive at a consensus, and to the exclusion of people who may have an alternate perspective. So it is the need to conform or the need to arrive at a consensus and to stay with the consensus even if you may have an alternate perspective. You can well imagine what that does to innovation within an organization if there is a huge pressure to conform to what it is that the group largely thinks. Outcome bias. This is a tendency to be able to evaluate the quality of a decision basis the outcome rather than the process that really went into the decision making. Shared information. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced shared information as well as a bias, where there is a tendency to work, when you work in teams, to be able to share more of the information that people are already aware of, rather than talk about things that very few people in the team may be actually aware of. So the tendency to spend more time talking about the obvious, rather than talk about what can actually help the team to be able to arrive at a useful decision. The bandwagon effect. This plays out in fashion or in trends, in stuff that the media is saying and so on. It is the way in which communities work. This is what leads to superstitions and community beliefs and all of that. This is when a group of people believe something to be true because a lot of people seem to follow it or have adopted it, and therefore tendency to be able to believe in something to be entirely true. The isolation effect. This is the tendency of the mind to remember something only because it's different. It's the tendency to be able to look at things which are similar and take those for granted and only remember something that sticks out as dissimilar. Zygomatic effect. The only reason I included the zygomatic effect is because this has just recently moved from my unconscious space to my conscious bias. This is the tendency, and I don't know how many of you in the audience will resonate with this. This is the mind's tendency to be able to remember tasks that are incomplete as compared to tasks that have already been completed. So you don't see a situation in perspective, you don't see completion and incompletion in perspective. You have a tendency to remain focused on what may not have been completed or the tasks that have remained incomplete. The illusion of truth effect. This plays out so well in the way in which the media repeats things again and again. There's a tendency to be able to believe that as the truth. So this is the illusion of the mind, to be able to lead you to believe something because many people are saying it or because you've heard it before. So illusion of truth effect, which is you get a sense this is true because you've heard it before or because many other people are saying it. Self-serving bias. I'm sure this is going to ring a bell. This is going to be true for some people that you know. I hope it's not you, but if it is, then this is a huge opportunity to be able to reflect on the self-serving bias. Self-serving bias is our mind's tendency to credit ourselves with all our own achievements and accomplishments and to assign our failures to external forces. So which means that everything that I did right or which went right was because of me and everything that went wrong was because of somebody else. Authority bias. This is another one which I'm sure you see play out, especially because we have an ethos which is so feudal. Most of us have experienced command and control leadership styles, whether they're at home, whether they're in schools, whether they're in workplaces, where there is a tendency to be able to believe something to be true because somebody very senior is saying it. And this is another trick the mind plays on us, to be able to believe something to be true because somebody in authority is actually saying it. So ladies and gentlemen, in the last couple of minutes, I took you through almost 15 kinds of biases. So what can you do about biases? What can you do to be able to deal with these biases in a meaningful manner? Well, there's lots that you can actually do. One is to be able to reflect on the fact that these biases really exist. The more you reflect on them, you'll identify a lot of them in yourself and you'll catch yourself doing it again and maybe stop yourself the next time you find yourself seeing a bias play out. So getting more conscious is the first way to be able to deal with a bias. Look for patterns. Look for patterns. It's extremely important to look for patterns. I must mention here that there are totally 150 kinds of biases. And it's far more easier for us to spot a bias in somebody else than be able to spot our own. Having said that, the more conscious you get about it, you can just start spotting patterns easily. Look for the contrary. Look for diatribe. Urge people for diatribe. Encourage people to be able to come out with alternate perspectives. We have a huge, huge emphasis on alignment and getting people to think in one way and to be able to accept only one right answer. So the minute people have an alternate perspective, we don't dismiss them off as cynics, but instead listen to their alternate perspectives. So encourage the contrary, because the contrary actually completes our ability to think. Embrace diversity. A lot of us have a challenge to be able to deal with anyone who's different from ourselves. So different from ourselves can actually complete us. Different from ourselves can actually complete our thinking. Different from ourselves can actually bring in innovation, change, improvement, creativity to what it is that we're doing. So embrace diversity, embrace the different. Attend to the data. Data brings objectivity to decision making. So much of that rationale that's being hijacked by the brain's unconscious processing can easily be brought to, can be addressed easily by being able to attend to information, to data as evidence, so that you bring in more objectivity to the process of decision making. And then of course the last one being communicate clearly. So communicate clearly, especially when you're in positions of responsibility or you have the ability to be able to influence large groups of people. It is ever so important to be able to use that space to be able to make your point as clearly as you can. The other part is to be able to start empowering everyone to start calling out biases. You'll be surprised how many organizations are doing work in this space to be able to start encouraging people to call out biases. To also put in people who are trained on conscious and unconscious biases in meetings, so that you're able to question people who are in positions of responsibility, who are making important decisions that impact people, situations, organizations, and their futures, to be able to hold people accountable for the kind and quality of decisions that they're making inside organizations by asking them pertinent questions that will get them and help them to be able to complete their own thing. So Daniel Kahneman wrote a beautiful book, and if it's not in your armory of books, we must get that soon. Think fast and think slow. If you look at our entire process of education, selection, a lot of you have been through competition before you've got to where you have, there has been, until now in our lives, a huge emphasis on thinking fast. Even if you look at selection processes, you look at what happens in interviews, there is so much of an emphasis on thinking fast, thinking on your feet, having your answers at the snap of a finger. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time now to be able to start thinking slowly. So enough of having thought fast. We now need to spend more time to think slowly. And there is a beautiful, beautiful poem by Robert Graves called Broken Images, which captures the essence of being able to think slowly before you think fast. And I want to be able to present this poem to you, Broken Images. He is quick, thinking in clear images. I am slow, thinking in broken images. He becomes dull, trusting in his clear images. I become sharp, mistrusting in my broken images. Trusting his images, he assumes their relevance. Mistrusting my images, I question their relevance. Assuming the relevance, he assumes the fact. Questioning the relevance, I question the fact. When the fact fails him, he questions his senses. When the fact fails me, it approves my senses. He continues quick and dull in his clear images. I continue slow and sharp in my broken images. He in a new confusion of his understanding, I in a new understanding of my confusion. So ladies and gentlemen, thinking slow before thinking fast, holding more people accountable for the decisions they make, empowering everyone to be able to call out a bias. This is important because our conscious and unconscious biases can create an unfair world. Thank you for listening to me.